Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Maxi here, and I am of course back for some more yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Mario Kart Arcade GP for the arcade machines, or to be more specifically, the homebrew channel on my Nintendo Wii for emulation. So, yeah, last time we have managed to accomplish the forms of Pac-Man Cup, and all in all, that's actually a pretty good run, despite I always got myself my time over during the forms of the challenge kind of game. But regardless of everything else though, this is by far the best looking cup throughout the whole game, if only with the forms of that particular Pac Labyrinth track I do like. So, yeah, anyway, today for this episode is the fact that we're about to be moving on to the next cup, which appears to be the Bowser Cup. Much like always, we're going to be taking place in the forms of the Bowser's Castle kind of levels. Well, to be more specifically, two tracks of Bowser's Castles specifically. Well, one of them is actually called Bowser's Castle, if I'm assuming I remember correctly. Yeah, it's Bowser's Castle as the first track. And the second track, on the other hand though, we'll talk more about that whenever we dive right in. So because of that though, yeah, I believe this is going to be the only cup at the moment that we can able to actually choose whatever items we can able to use in all 4 rounds basically. So because of that, I equipped the forms of 3 specific items to my disposal, so that way I could able to actually choose whatever items I go for. But it wasn't until tomorrow we're going to be hit on to the finale portion of this Let's Play, while we're going to have to go for the forms of, well, quite a difficult challenging tasks eventually. So either way though, and as to be expected ever since in the last weekend, is that I'm still going to be stuck with Toad, because Toad is awesome. And I know some people might disagree with me on this, but either way though, still, I don't care, because much like Mario Party and the rest of the Mario Kart games, and even some Mario sports spin-offs occasionally, that Toad is my main character. I always attempt to choose him in certain spin-offs. Well, of course, in addition to the forms of several platformers as well, mainly with like Super Mario Maker 2, as well as the forms of well, Super Mario 3D World, if I have to able to complete most of those courses until I 100% everything. So, well, for both on the Wii U and the Switch version. So because of that though, yeah, it always becomes my priority when it comes to like highly replayability. So, yeah, a few things I want to explain when it comes to the forms of today's discussion is that obviously today's day is of course the 27th of March today, in this case in 2021. This is going to be pretty scary when it comes to the forms of by the end of this particular month, or to be more specifically, March, to be more specifically, is that it's pretty obvious is the fact that the Super Mario Bros. 35th anniversary productions will stop. And because of that though, well, again, we'll point things out again, that luckily though, you can still able to actually get the Super Mario 3D All-Stars physically on second-hand condition. So if you're about to find out in any certain second-hand shops, then by all means you can able to find that if you didn't get a chance to play Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Whilst the forms of digital downloadable version of 3D All-Stars is being delisted, and plus you can't get that game anymore digitally, and also same applies to the forms of Game & Watch Super Mario Bros. Edition. And again, unless if it's like second-hand condition, they can potentially try to get, but I'm not exactly 100% sure though. But we'll see what happens during at some point at the beginning of April, once we get back into the forms of the rest of the Mario Party series. To be more specifically, Mario Party 4 will be up next. And of course it might seems pretty obvious, but luckily though, for Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is still up, and it's no limited release. And same applies to Mario Kart Live Home Circuit, which has always been like a good thing that those two related Mario things is not limited. So because of that though, I'm pleased about that. However though, as we already know is by now, that the Super Mario Bros. 35 will no longer going to be continuing. So because of that though, it will end off in service by the time until whenever we well, you know what I mean, when it comes to likely moving on and stuff like that, and also that game will also be delisted as well. So it seems this kind of sucks, that those two things are, well, I say two things because there's also another game called Fire Emblem and the Shadow of Blade of Light. I have no idea what that game is called, but that game is also going to be gone for good, which, again, it might therefore be very sad for when it comes to the forms of Fire Emblem fans. So, yeah, it's a pretty shocking way to able to notice how the fact that some things are about to end at some point by the end of the month. So, yeah, it seems it's kind of scary if you ask me. But eventually though, they will do something related to the Legend of Zelda's 35th anniversary at some point later on throughout the year, so at least I'm still hyped about that, so... Anyways though, here we go on to the next track in terms of the Bowser Cup, and as you can see, we're now going to be driving through the new track that is called Castle Wall, which I know seems kind of a weird track name as far as I want to point things out for the sake of the actual, the name of the track as far as I'm concerned. But usually we're going to be driving onto the actual castle wall itself rather than just the inside. Although you will still able to drive through the inside portion of the Bowser's castle itself. But ultimately though, you're going to be driving through the actual castle wall itself. So because of that though, yeah, it's actually pretty interesting all things considered. So because of that though, yeah. Actually, there's another thing I just want to point things out right away, especially noticeable about the fact that one thing I totally forgot to mention about this, because after all, I've already mentioned about loads of stuff. Oh gosh, I need to be able to pass it to someone. Yeah, that particular power bomb is actually a prequel to the Thundercloud item from Mario Kart Wii. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you try to able to pass it to someone else, and then if the actual power bomb explodes on certain player, then obviously they'll just get stunned. So yeah, this is kind of like a prequel to the Thundercloud, the most annoying item in Mario Kart Wii, after all. So yeah, that seems kind of surprising, I say. So anyway though, because obviously ever since in last Sunday, if I recall, that I've already mentioned about loads of announcements, regardless of the forms of Square Enix presentation has been up ever since in, well, ever since on last Thursday. So, one thing I totally forgot to mention is that there are quite a lot of challenges in this game. Like, to be more specifically, there are multiple playthroughs you can able to play through for this game. There was, obviously the normal campaign, which is a very self-explanatory, like, to simply have to win a race and stuff like that. And there's also the special variations, which is to be more specifically, some tracks manage to able to have different amount of items to able to sort out with, and also they're able to actually get some of these courses reversed. So this could be a prequel to Mario Kart Tour whenever they did manage to use the reverse track system as well in Mario Kart Tour. Even though this game did manage to did this first, so because of that though, that's why I'm pointing things out right away, in regards of the forms of, you know, for Mario Kart Tour that might not know about. So, anyway though, and there's also the 150cc, which I'm assuming you do need to unlock, by the way, once you finish up with multiple races during the forms of Grand Prix mode, basically, assuming if you're able to try to save your Mario Kart and stuff like that. So because of that though, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of repeated playthroughs for the sake of the forms of this game. So because of that though, honestly, I probably won't gonna be tackling through multiple versions of, you know, just going for the entire Grand Prix multiple times in this game in general, along with Mario Kart Arcade GP2, just because it plays out pretty much exactly the same thing, except they're able to actually bring up some slight significant differences, like, for instance, that some of these, well, some of these courses might get reversed, like, you can able to drive the actual track in a, well, let's just say the reverse way. So it's nothing like how it does in the forms of the most recent installment, which is of course Mario Kart Arcade GP DX. That game does have mirror mode. So because of that though, like, you know, playing very much exactly like how it did in the previous Mario Kart games, since Mario Kart 64, they managed to be able to introduce certain tracks are mirrored, which becomes an extra game. Well, despite Super Mario Kart doesn't have it, and especially noticeable if Mario Kart Super Circuit doesn't have that either, most notably because due to the handheld's limitations or something, but they obviously bring the mirror class back until Mario Kart Double Dash came around, and it becomes a little bit more of a common kind of thing in the future Mario Kart games for sure. So because of that though, well, obviously the noticeable exception being the forms of Mario Kart Tour, because obviously with reverse tracks as well as the trick variations of certain tracks and all that stuff though, so you'll probably get the gist of it. So oh yeah, something worth mentioning for this point as well is that, as you can tell, we're going back onto Bowser's Castle track, and the noticeable difference between Course 1 and Course 3 variation of this track is that in Course 1, it plays out pretty much self-explanatory, although it gets a bit ridiculously hard as you progress for this point, because there's going to be some now you need to be able to get yourselves pretty good timing as far as drifting as far as I'm concerned. And then, basically, for instance, in round 3, as you can see, that what the heck is up with those little objects are here for? That's only because eventually that Kamek might able to actually just cast a spell, so that makes the actual track a lot more narrower, as far as I'm aware. And it only happens during the forms of, well, I would say in lap 2, so at least if I was expecting this correctly, although there are a few rare occasions where Kamek decides to able to actually cast a spell, so that way it just makes the track a little bit trickier. So because of that though, yeah, it's more accurately the exact same track aside from the added, you know, obstacles and all that stuff. So because of that though, and also originally, I was going to show you guys every single items of the game, but I think there are about 90 or so items throughout the whole game, which is quite a lot in a Mario Kart game nonetheless. So, yeah, that seems kind of a standard stuff, honestly. Even then though, it always reminds me of a similar thing for how it does it on Sonic Free Riders, when in Sonic Free Riders does manage to have a whole bunch of items in that game. Well, despite the fact that that game is completely flopped by the forms of fans and critics alike, most notably because of the Kinect, Xbox 360 Kinect kind of technology sucks, but that's how it is for me. So, again, I just wish if Sonic Free Riders will get ported over to the PS4 or Xbox One or Nintendo Switch, or how about rather, as an alternative, PS5 or Xbox Series X, but let me know in the comments, because even then I would wish if I liked to able to let Sonic Free Riders were able to actually get ported over to a, well, let's just say a good platform system, to be more specifically Nintendo Switch or PS4 or the forms of PlayStation 5 or any kind of like consoles I can think of, and plus trying to make it as a, well, the actual game controller, not so much motion control kind of gimmick. So yeah, I might be biased, but anyway, now let's head back onto Castle Wall track once again. Well, it's like the exact same track, except obviously eventually that, you know, Kamek or Mecha to be more specifically, will cast a spell until they're able to actually decide to able to cast a spell, until it makes the track a little bit more slightly narrower, and doing, let's just say in lap 2 for instance. So yeah, apart from those side of things though, it's actually kind of a tricky track, although not as difficult as the forms of how it does on the last track we can probably hit onto at some point tomorrow. So because of that though, we can expect to see what's going to be coming up. So yeah, speaking of such though actually, it's the fact that there is also the forms of the special version of 150cc, where it's basically like a combination of the two, which I think I'm not exactly sure if I was expecting it, but I can assure you that, although I may be wrong, just because I haven't really looked upon that game that much compared to the sequel, just because, well, the arcade GB2 is the one I'm most likely familiar with and fondly remembered, especially noticeable whenever I play it on the arcade cabinet, well, at least ever since back in 2010, during the actual bowling alley. So yeah, that seems a pretty good time for my liking, so Oh yeah, something's worth mentioning is that in Bowser's Castle track, obviously it contains like 4 laps, if I was assuming correctly. And since we are now onto Castle Wall, basically we're now onto 3 laps. Very much like a traditional Mario Kart style of laps system. Although, whenever we get onto the final cup in the game, we'll talk more about that during tomorrow. So because of that though, yeah, let's just go ahead and just try to hold the item for a second there, just in case if Mario will, assuming, bypasses me. But sometimes the rubber banding can be a bit of a nuisance at times, but luckily, when you get the hang of it though, it shouldn't be too bad though, honestly. So there we go, but before we get our hands on our Bowser Cup, we do need to take on the forms of, what else? The challenge game. So let's see what challenge game we're going to be able to dealing with at this point here. So it looks like we're about to be, well, dealing with Bowser right here. And we need to use the actual, well, projectiles by destroying those little pillars. And by the way, something's worth mentioning actually, in regards to the forms of what characters you're going to be using. If you use Mario, Toad, and you probably get the idea, including the Pac-Man characters, you're always going to be face off against with Bowser. However, if you play as Bowser on this mission, Bowser will be replaced by Mecha Bowser, which it does seem is pretty cool, but I think I'm also slightly trying to show that off and doing at some point in Mario Kart Arcade GP2 playthrough. Well, at least if I was assuming that correctly, because that game you can able to actually choose whatever characters you want to play as, depending on what cups you're going to be approaching onto next. So, yeah, basically all you have to do is basically just take down those little 4 rocky structure pillars, and when you've done so, then you get yourselves a Bowser Cup, as well as the Poison Mushroom from Toad. So, yeah, seems all top-notch and everything. So, and by the way, once you've completed every single cup so far, to be more specifically 5 cups, you would unlock the final cup in the game, which appears to be the glorious Rainbow Cup. And, yeah, it should be interesting, because either way, I think we should probably end things off at this point right here. So join me tomorrow for more of Let's Play of Mario Kart Arcade GP. Instead, we're going to be hit on to the final cup in the game, which is the Rainbow Cup. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later, fellas.